Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Welcome, everyone. It's Max 2024 here in Orlando, Florida. It's Carm Capriato. Honored to be here. I'm giving the keynote while we're here, going to moderate a panel and do a lot of great interviews. And I have with me Michael Ingvardsen. Did I say that right?
You did.
Oh,
yeah,
my.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, from Copenhagen.
True. Yeah.
Wow, Denmark. And Michael is the training manager for Nissens. Did I say that right?
You did. You did pretty good.
Tracy says, "Is that Nissan? Is that I have a car? I have a Rogue." No, honey, it's not. It's Nissens, and they deliver the difference in automotive air conditioning.
It's basically heat transfer. So anything within heat transfer, the whole company was founded by a guy that actually fixed radiators back 100 plus years ago.
It's amazing to hear. You meet people and says, "Yeah, my dad was fixing radiators in the back garage and the evolution of the company, and now we're 80 years old." I love stories like that.
Yeah, it's great to be proud of. And honestly, when I got hired 11 years ago, this was one of the reasons why I wanted to get hired, to be honest, because it has a good foundation. It was great to work in. And the whole concept and idea of the company was based on quality, getting to know things, and really being interested in the industry and not so much about just making a quick buck, honestly. So I enjoyed it.
Michael is the training manager, and I had the luxury of having a call with him from Copenhagen a couple of days ago just to do an icebreaker and find out about him. We could have talked for an hour. Yeah, you're amazing. Great backstory. Are you training here, by the way?
No,
You're
I'm
not.
not.
You got a booth?
No, I don't actually. We have an office in Dallas, but we don't have a booth this year at all. So now I'm just here to attend and do networking. And I mean, I've been coming back and forth for 25 years. I used to live in Dallas. I've been coming back and forth, and this is great. Just a great experience for me every time. And this is something that I do every year.
So you're with Nissens 11 years, but you've got a legacy. Tell me about your dad.
Well, it goes way back to my great-great-grandfather, great-grandfather, I would say that. He actually imported the first refrigerators into Denmark.
Wait a minute, stop. That is just, that is the coolest. He imports the first Frigidaire or?
Yeah, it was called, as far as I was told, actually, it was called Frigidaire. That was the name of it. Yeah. And he made a ton of money on doing that. Unfortunately, he was very happy with women and booze and stuff like that. So he kind of, I'm sorry, typical.
That's a whoops.
Yeah, that was a whoops. So there was nothing left when he kind of left the earth. No, but after that, I mean, my granddad actually started a company where they built some shells for cooling. So they use it in these butcher shops. So when you have to have your meat stored and everything else, they actually had it in there. It's funny because one day, one guy came down and said, "Listen, I want to sell these solenoid valves for these shelves." And he went, "Nah, that's not for me. I'm not sure the quality works." And that guy was actually the guy that founded Danfoss. I don't know if anybody knows Danfoss, but that's a significant company in the world today that produces a ton of cooling components. So,
Michael, are we going to lose the legacy that exists in our industry? I go back to my grandfather who came in from Italy, and he was entrepreneurial, and he just did so many things. Think of the legacy of your family.
Sure.
In another 20 or 30 years, are we going to be able to get these stories told?
Hopefully we will. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, hopefully I'll carry it on, and I'm not sure my kids, I don't have any kids, I have foster kids, but hopefully they'll pick up the interest. But in all fairness, I mean, we also need to move on. I mean, there's no reason to be kept in the past. We need to move forward. But I think without knowing the past, it's very difficult to understand the future and what we need to do and the foundation, everything that we do in a training class. To look at the newer systems, the heat pumps and everything else, the electric vehicles, you need to understand the basics. You really do. And we try to always, I mean, we try to forget the past and try to move forward because that's the new things we're going to do. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, we're the ones who need to keep that going.
Yeah, we grew up on the backs of our ancestry. I guess I'm trying to find the right word. You know, the uncle, the great uncle, the grandfather, the great grandfather, and if it wasn't for all the things that they did, I mean, we wouldn't be here in this microcosm of life today. And I don't mean to get crazy and emotional and weird on anyone, but I think it's important. The more that I start hearing from legacy guys in the industry and says, "So where'd you get your start?" And then here comes the great stories.
That's true. And I think a lot of times we hear about sales. It was a great thing because we made a ton of money. It was like, well, I didn't know what I was going to do when I was 14, 15. This wasn't my dream. It wasn't my dream to be sitting here as a 50-year-old and, hey, I'm a global technical training manager for Nissens. Like, what the? I mean, honestly,
Exactly.
yeah.
I love the story. We have done some episodes with some directors of training, managers of training in the industry to try to prove to the rest of our young industry, this guy was turning wrenches for this shop. It's still in existence. And if it wasn't for that owner embracing this young man, and now he's, the VP of training somewhere,
Sure.
where am I going? How am I getting there? Is there a career path beyond what I do? Because I have a love to do this. It's all possible.
You need to be at the right place at the right time. I mean, Nissens didn't have a training program when I started. I mean, when I started 11 years ago, I was a product manager. I mean, that they wanted to introduce compressors into the AC industry with our customers and everything else. That was great. And I said, that's fine. I love doing that. But to do that, we need to make sure that the customers know what they're buying, what their return and everything else. And like, no, our customers know what they're doing. Like, no, they don't. Like, no, they've been compressors for 20 years. Like, yeah, but they still don't know what they're doing. They think they know what they're doing, but they don't.
I would love to say this very facetious thing. Is air conditioning the same today as it was yesterday?
Technically, yes.
Okay, but it's changing rapidly.
It is changing. And the thing is that, and it was funny because then as we talked about Monday was that I had a student telling me that, why do I need to go to an AC training class? Because AC is the same thing. I mean, like back when I did 30 years ago, it's the same thing. It still cools and everything else and so forth. And like, yeah, that's true. It does cool down, but you have to remember that a Mercedes E-Class was the same thing in 1987 as it is today, but everything's changed. Everything has changed that vehicle. It might be an E-Class, but it has changed, meaning that internal components, the way it works, energy consumption, refrigerants, oil, UV dye, O-rings, everything else have changed. The functionality of it is exactly the same, but the way it works and the way that it should work and the impact that it has on the rest of the vehicle has changed dramatically.
We got to talk about that going forward. If I was a air conditioning person, I was the specialist in the shop on air conditioning, and I was really good diagnosing what I think would be the failure.
Sure.
What you're saying is as our technology moves and changes, do I need to keep ahead of the curve by going to training?
Sure. The challenge that we have today is there's so many trainings out there. There's so many trainings that are being announced saying, hey, now you need to go this one, that one. What we're trying to create basically, because I'm also the president of Mac Partners, the equivalent of Macs in the US. I'm also president for Mac Partners in Europe, basically doing the same thing. Not the same scale, a bit different with all the different nationalities and cultures and so forth. The challenge right now we have is that it used to be that everybody could work, or most people could work on an AC system because they were AC specialists, because the systems were pretty big, they had high efficiency and so forth. Once we started looking at newer vehicles, where electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, and high efficient vehicles with fuel mileage has to be pretty good and so forth, they started looking at the AC system. So now we're not just looking at the components, we're also looking at the chemical side of things. So UV dye that affects how the compressor works, and we've got to minimize components, the weight, make them more efficient. But when we do that, we also reduce the amount of oil and reduce the amount of everything else in the system. So we've got Teflon coated pistons, which we didn't have back in the 80s, 90s, all the way up to 2000. Nobody knew there was a Teflon coated piston. When I do a training class and they show a Teflon coated piston, they go, is that where it works? Is that how it works? Yeah. And it scratches pretty easily. So when I don't turn the clutch, it scratches. Potentially, it didn't do that back with the old fixed expansion compressors on a humongous Chevy Tahoe or Suburban or whatever. Nobody cared because it didn't break down as easily. But with everything going on with parallel flow condensers, breakable pulleys, Teflon coated pistons, and so forth, you really need to understand how the component works. Once you do that, you don't have a problem.
So the argument is about basic electric training here in the States, and the trainers realizing how much training even some of the best diagnosticians, mechanical and or technology specialists need. They've got to go and get refreshed because they're always going to learn one new thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
So the concept here is the same for air conditioning. you cannot not go. If you've not been to a training, say in 2 years, would you recommend I go?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the world is moving so fast right now, also within vehicles, that you have to go every second year. I'm not saying you should go every year, but every second year is great to go up. It's kind of updated, upgraded, whatever you want to call it. That's a great way to kind of go, okay, that makes sense. And it, as you said, it only takes one thing for that system to break down. If you don't know that thing, it's got to break
Yeah,
down.
you're stuck in the mud. Okay. Everyone knows I'm not a technician, and I sometimes ask basic questions, and they say, "Why didn't you know that?" Well, because you know that I don't know that, and I have this curiosity. I love everything about our industry, and that's why we do what we do for 9 years here. And so I've got to ask maybe a sophomoric question to my audience, but for me important. But I also think my audience doesn't know enough about heat pumps.
Heat pumps, yeah, that's
Heat
a nasty
pumps.
word. Yeah.
And every time I try to watch or read something about it, I still walk away scratching my head.
Sure.
Can you help me understand?
Quick overview of a heat pump. Yeah. No, I'm joking. I can't. Not if I want to. The big challenge with a heat pump is, of course, why do we need it in a vehicle? The reason why we need it in a vehicle is that, and in electric and hybrid vehicles, we want to make sure that the car drives as far as it possibly can on that battery charge. We cannot just go into a gas station and fill it up with gasoline or diesel or whatever. So we want to find the best possible way to make that happen. Okay. So with a normal AC system and with the refrigerants that we know today, 134A, 1234A, that's other coming, we'll get back to that. You do have limitations to range because when a compressor runs, it does actually remove battery capacity. And you have to remember that when it gets really cold outside or extremely warm outside, refrigerant works either good or bad. Okay. So I wouldn't say bad, but more or less efficient. Let's put it that way. So for 134A, let's put that as an example, 1234A, it's extremely good at cooling. Extremely good. Not a problem at all. Everything works great. If you're in Nevada, everything's fine. But if you drive to Chicago, when it gets really cold, really windy, any place where it's really cold, 134A in a cooling mode becomes a little bit of an issue because below -5 degrees Celsius, I have to apologize about my whole Fahrenheit thing.
That's okay. We'll live with
really
it.
well. But below -5 degrees Celsius, the 134A 1234YF refrigerant does not have enough capacity to heat up the battery pack and the cabin. So therefore, you need either a battery or you need a electric heater. But electric heater and electric vehicle, yeah, that's not a good thing because you're removing capacity from the battery pack. With a heat pump system using like CO2, like we do in Europe, because of the high pressure, you also create more temperature or higher temperatures. Below -5 degrees, all the way down to -40, you can actually utilize the fact that CO2 works with a higher pressure. You don't need an extra heater or electric heater to actually heat up the cabin.
I think it finally hit me. I got that.
So now we're getting back to why heat pumps. Well, heat pumps because of efficiency. That's all we're talking about. Efficiency on hybrid electric vehicles, because on a normal vehicle, you do have a combustion engine that produces heat. Why have a heat pump? It makes no sense at all. And then people go, oh, it's just like a heat pump in a house. Yes and no.
Okay, so so in an electric vehicle, there's no heater core.
There is, depending on the model,
but the heat's coming from a different source.
It is. As long as it's able to produce that heat, yes, it is. But a lot of vehicles today still have an extra heater core just to make sure that you actually do have that capacity to actually heat up the vehicle. But in general, it never runs because you do have a heat pump system that does it. But this is where it becomes critical of knowing also chemicals and not just chemicals, but refrigerants in particular. And that's why we're seeing so many different refrigerants coming out because of efficiency, because of PFAS. That's very interesting in Europe right now.
What is that?
PFAS is actually when a refrigerant is being released. When it drops down, it actually creates acid, or it actually becomes acidic, or can become acidic. So the PFAS level, and in the US, you have a PFAS level that's acceptable. In Europe, we have one. Unfortunately, back 10 years ago, when we introduced 1234YF, they calculated PFAS in a different manner than they do today. So 1234YF was accepted back then, but now everybody's getting at 1234YF or HFO in general. That's the general term of 1234YF, because now the PFAS level, according to the new calculation, is too high. And believe me, when a politician in Europe gets that on his or her table, they're going to go for it, because environmental friendly solutions in Europe right now is highly popular.
Don't forget, we're talking Celsius, not Fahrenheit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I do apologize for that.
No, I'm just repeating it so that no one is confused if their mind floated away and they came back and they heard these crazy numbers.
Exactly.
Do you guys follow SAE standards in Europe?
Yes and no. Yes and no. We do follow them, but we do have our own standards as well, but they're very much related to SAE. So yes and no.
Hey, it's no secret. We're facing a technician shortage, and Napa Auto Care has a solution with the Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program. The program was pioneered by one of our own. Pete McNeil and Master Technician Jeg Sorensen from McNeil's Auto Care in Sandy, Utah, realized that the problem of not having technicians available for hire was not going to solve itself, and decided to take action and look at a different audience of individuals available for hire. A focus was put on younger individuals with the right passion, desire, and attitude to work in the automotive repair industry. Jake and Pete sought after these individuals and developed a technician apprentice program to give them the training needed to become a successful technician in today's world. The Napa Auto Care Apprentice Program includes a comprehensive 9-stage curriculum that includes a variety of types of training, and they are classroom training videos exclusive to the apprentice program. Now, these videos provide in-depth training from a successful master technician. Also, Autotech classes with instructor-led courses offered through Napa Autotech and Autotech e-learning. This web-based e-learning is designed to target specific training topics. And finally, hands-on learning. The apprentice will apply the skills gained from the classroom training videos, Autotech instructor-led training, and Autotech e-learnings in the shop with the guidance of a mentor. The apprentice program curriculum is competency-based, meaning an apprentice can move through each stage at a pace that best suits them. Most apprentices complete the program within 2 years. Upon completion, apprentices will have earned ASE G1, A4, A5, and AC certifications, adding industry validation to the skills an apprentice acquires. Look, having an apprentice in your shop will ultimately benefit your bottom line as they advance through the program. And in most cases, as the apprentice develops their skill set producing billable hours, you'll begin to see a growth in your gross profit by stage 5. One of the largest barriers to entry for individuals looking to enter the automotive repair industry is the cost of tools. Now, keep your apprentice motivated with an apprentice toolkit. Now, Napa Auto Care has worked with our supplying partners to offer an exclusive comprehensive tool set, including a 4-drawer tool cart for all registered apprentices. Hey, to learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. I think I understood what heat pumps are, but I still don't. I still don't, because what's the theory behind it?
Well, the theory behind it is basically to utilize the fact that you do have a refrigerant that can actually cool and heat. Why not utilize that? Unfortunately, when you have it in a house, it's fairly easy because you just reverse the flow, meaning that you're using a condenser as an evaporator and an evaporator as a condenser. Okay, so an evaporator is normally cold. Okay, so once you reverse that flow, it becomes warm. And then the condenser becomes an evaporator instead. So now that's cold and the evaporator is warm. So that's why you get the heat. Your heat load gets there because you are compressing a gas that gets a high pressure. When you have that high pressure, the molecules inside the refrigerant is actually moving back and forth. That creates friction. When you create friction, it creates heat. So the fact that the condenser in normal circumstances is warm doesn't work for you when it's cold outside. But in Buffalo, where you live, when you reverse that flow, the evaporator that's supposed to be cold and evaporating the refrigerant is now basically having a high heat load. Then,
So I'm a shop who is working on EVs, and in fact, Tesla's come in.
Sure.
You're really recommending that I get to some current air conditioning classes.
Definitely. Now, let's remember that Tesla didn't move into the heat pump system until 2019.
Okay.
So basically, and they're still working with 1234YF and 134A, not CO2, because CO2 in the US is not allowed to have not allowed to charge in the system because the pressure is 10 times higher than 1234YF.
Oh, that's a great point.
But I know something else is coming.
Oh, really? You can't tell us?
I cannot be clear on it because I'm not trying to be secret about it. I'm just saying that it hasn't been decided by the EPA which they're going to allow. But there's different refrigerants out there. There's CO2, LFR3, 456A, R444A, blah, 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 blah. The list is long.
Did you hear all those letters and numbers, everyone?
Yeah, love it.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. And the problem is when you do a training class, people get confused. Even though we have it very schematically, exactly which one is coming, what's replacing what, and which oils you use, they go, I mean,
this just goes to show you, you've got to pay attention to this forward-moving technology.
Yeah, and again, our customers, you have to remember that when you're introducing a replacement refrigerant for 134A called 45, we can take 456A, okay? The 456A is a replacement for 134A, okay? So you can drop it in, technically, into a 134A system. The challenge becomes now, AC machines. Will the manufacturer of the AC machine allow for 456A to be recovered into that machine? And in case something breaks, will it still be under warranty? Case number one. Case number two, I replace the compressor. Will the compressor manufacturer, whether it's DOE or Nissens or NRF or Mahle or whatever, will they allow 456A to be in that compressor? And if it does break down, do we pinpoint that and say, listen, you use 456A, we only tested it for 134A. It's rejected.
It seems to me, hearing you brilliantly tell this great story, that we're in limbo.
Yes, you are. And it's our job, honestly, from our side as a technician or a trainer, but also from a manufacturer to say, okay, we need to make it as easy for you to mount that or to repair that vehicle with our products. It's acceptable. And our approach to this is because we talked about this and I said, listen, you can basically introduce anything into a system. If it doesn't break down the component, who cares? Honestly, who cares? Because if it doesn't break down over 2 years, the warranty period is 2 years, and it doesn't break down because of that, we don't have a problem. But if that is the case, if Crura that actually manufactures 456A and vouch for the fact that it is replaceable for 134A, why shouldn't we say okay? But we're just one part of the chain because you could be buying a compressor from us, a condenser from Mahle, have an AC machine from Robinair. Then you go, oh, so I got to talk to 3 different vendors to see if this is okay. That's why you have a distributor. That's why you have O'Reilly's, Worldpac, SSF, IMC, whatever you have out there where you're buying from. They need to vouch for the fact that this is okay. So don't go, well, you can call us.
This isn't your grandpa's air conditioning system anymore.
It ain't. It's changed. And and it's been more refined, which is great. I mean, I love it. I think everybody loves it.
In my mind, it seems like if you're an air conditioning specialist today and you keep on top of your craft, you're going to be an invaluable asset to a shop that knows they can specialize in air.
Oh, sure. I mean, remember that if let's say, if you have an electric vehicle, let's say sooner or later, you're going to buy one. Maybe you're going to buy one.
So, by the way, in Denmark, do you all have to buy one?
We're kind of forced to do it.
Just curious.
It's funny you should say that because I'm in a limbo right now because I have to choose a new company car. And the incentives of buying an electric car makes sense. Unfortunately, I'm not the kind of guy that stands around for 20 minutes and wait for a charge. If there is a charger available, let's put it that way, because the challenge right now is still the range. And when I go to Germany or when I go to Italy or whatever, I need to go charge it. And I'm not the kind of guy that wants to stay around. And it's great when I'm on vacation because we got the dogs with us and we have to get out every 2 hours. So that's fine. But the challenge would always be that the range dramatically drops when it's cold outside, really. And that this is where it hits you. But we also need to understand that this is just the way the world is going. We need to find an alternative, which is great, but we also need to have an alternative that makes sense on a daily basis. I mean, it should be forced upon you. And in Europe, it's forced upon you, or in Denmark at least. In the US, it's more like the carrot that you go, hey, let's do this. You get incentive. That's great. In Denmark, they just go, hey, you can't drive into the city if you drive that car. Like, yeah, but I just bought it 3 years ago. And you have to remember that cars in Denmark specifically, I mean, it's extremely expensive because we add 100%, 150% in taxes to that car. So a car over here that'll be 20,000 would be 70,000 in Europe or in Denmark. Yes. So I don't know what you guys are driving, but it would be probably a fairly expensive vehicle in Europe. So
I don't know what to say.
You shouldn't say anything.
I just don't. Oh, I may not be around when all this stuff hits us.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
And I hope it doesn't. I'm fascinated by this change in technology and the value of going to air conditioning training. And I can't wait. Tracy, I've got to dig out the vision training classes for this year, and I got to see how many on air conditioning are listed. And I almost have to use this episode to get out there to tell people, don't skip the air class.
No, we're actually I'm actually doing 3 training classes, STX 2024.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm doing 2 that's actually heat pumps, and one that's
Are you doing them yourself?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm coming over to Nashville and doing that. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So we're having 3 training classes, specifically 2 of them with heat pumps, and 1 is just basic. But what we learned over the years, I have to remember when I started doing training class in the US, I was like, these guys know everything. I have no chance whatsoever of learning anything new. But what I learned was basically that everybody's at the same level, whether you do training class in China, whether you do the US, or whether you do in Europe, or whether you do it in Africa, or Australia, or whatever. You got to start somewhere. And unfortunately, if you know the basics, you're going to be in for a treat when you look at heat pumps, because it's way, way different. And to understand, it's easy if you understand heat transfer. But unfortunately, air conditioning is not taught that way. It's taught that we got these 7 components. That's how it works. And yeah.
Heat transfer. I think you just broke the code. To me,
if you understand heat transfer, yes, I did break the code.
Because in my mind, this whole heat pump thing is about heat transfer.
It is. It's like going from cold to warm. It's not that, honestly. And I'm not, believe me, I didn't drop out of school when I was 18 because I was a scientist. I was very clever. I was actually pretty straightforward. I like to party more than I like to go to school.
Attaboy.
There you go. So it was kind of funny, and this is actually one story that's funny because I didn't drop out of school, but I actually just left high school or the university. And my dad said, so what do I do? I said, hey, I don't know. And he said, hey, I got a friend of mine who actually has the chance for you to go to hotel in London, work there for a year. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, yeah, so that's okay. And he's like, yeah, whatever. He never did anything. I mean, he's like, yeah, he did his job and that was it. So he had his own company. So that 1 week later, I was on a plane to London. And 1 week later after that, I was hired and doing work in London. I'm like, what the
How'd that happen? Huh?
But the funny thing was that opened up the door for my work in Dallas and working for a filter dry company that's now doing great. But that was such a great experience. I loved him for doing that. I mean, I really appreciate my dad for pushing that on me. And without that, I wouldn't have done what I do today. So it's not a coincidence, but
the stars were aligned, Michael.
Were they? Okay.
I'm guessing. I'm guessing. Because I was talking to Tracy recently and says, Dad, you've got so many incredible stories to tell. And by just telling me what you told about partied and all this stuff, I almost flunked out of my first semester in college.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And I was the oldest in the business world of the family business, the oldest Capriato grandson. And I was going to flunk out. And I promised Tracy that I would tell that story in a podcast one day. Dad, you got to tell a couple of the great stories about your life and how you overcame them. But thank you for reminding me that I have to do that.
Well, sure.
Look, as training manager, do you write the classes? Do you listen about what needs? Do you help tweak them? How many trainers do you have? Help us understand.
Yeah, that's all I do. Basically, I do the training class myself because you need to be hands-on if you need to modify the training classes that we do. Of course, I don't understand every language that we have. We have about 30 trainers that does engine efficiency training classes, so turbo, engine efficiency, basically. Okay. But mainly we do AC training classes. My job is basically to make sure they have the right material that keep up to pace. So every second Friday, we have an online training class for all our trainers. So there's like 75 people invited to that training class, and it's online. And it gets recorded. So if they don't attend, they can always go back and watch it. So my job is basically to make sure that we got the latest technology, the latest news, and it has nothing in general. It's got nothing to do with Nissens. It has to do with the fact that if someone comes up with something new that should be introduced, we will introduce it. It doesn't matter whether it's from a competitor or whatever. We still have to tell the audience about it. We have to remember that when you walk into a training class, it's not about what Nissens does. It's about what's out there for you to understand how to work on a vehicle. Because if I manufacture it or we manufacture it, that's fine. That's great. But we need to tell people what they need to do and what they don't need to do, or at least make up their own mind based on the reality. we're seeing so many training classes today, unfortunately, where they only talk about what are they great at. Okay. But there's always things out that's not great. And we have to appreciate that and say, listen, that's how we learn. That's how we move forward from mistakes. I mean,
What are the names of the classes you're teaching at STX?
Well, you kind of caught me off guard there because I'm not sure we actually did the names yet. But,
Okay.
But if you,
and here's the reason that I asked.
Sure.
So many trainers that I talk to say if you don't have the title right, they're not going to show up.
And that's absolutely true. I mean, I had a conversation about a month ago, and I have a meeting with Worldpac here at the conference. They're coming down. And the reason was that if we don't make an exciting title, you got something like 300 training classes. So if we don't have something that makes them excited, they're not going to attend it. So you got to search on heat pumps, basically. You got to look at refrigerants, new refrigerants, upcoming refrigerants, and so forth. That's what you have to look at when you look at those training classes. Unfortunately, AC is not very sexy.
The advanced fundamentals of air conditioning systems.
That's what it's actually one of them called. That's pretty good.
Yeah. See, and that's a sexy title for.
Is it?
Get over and do some basic air or do some basic electrical.
Exactly. But I think honestly, nothing happened in the AC industry for 20, 30 years. Nothing happened. Right. I mean, we had 134A. The most exciting thing that happened was to went from R12 to 134A.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was kind of cool.
Wait a minute. I remember guys with truckloads of R12.
Oh, yeah. They're still around. I'm sorry.
And where are they being sold? In third world countries or what?
No. You have to remember that not everybody moves in the pace that the Western world does. Yeah. So yes, in Africa, they still have potential of buying R12. I have to remember that even in the US, if you do have a vehicle that was born with R12, you're still allowed to use it to a certain degree. So, but it's limited.
I had this really strange question. What would I pay for a jug of R12 today?
No comments.
I think you should know.
I might know, but honestly, I mean, coming from the industry, I'm not supposed to know.
Yeah, I understand. You're not
that's
supposed
how
to
that
know.
Works.
Turn off the mics. No.
Exactly. But I would say I think it's fairly inexpensive. It's fairly expensive. But there are replacements. Unfortunately, when you have a typical American old timer, I mean, let's say you have a Mustang for 67. You really want to keep it the way it was. Yeah. And to introduce a new refrigerant, even though it worked great, everything's fine and so forth, it becomes technical if you want to replace it. But I fully understand that you want to keep R12 in a vehicle like that.
Sure.
But if you got let's not get technical. But if you've got a York compressor, you're going to screw it up anyway. So.
All right.
You don't.
What else should I know?
A lot of things. We don't have the time, I guess. No, but with a heat pump system, you need to understand. That's what I was trying to get at, and I kind of lost track. But
no, I took you off track. But...
No, that's fine. No, but I think the people are thinking that it's just like a house where you got a evaporator, you got a condenser, you got a compressor, you got a filter dryer, you got expansion valve. That's not how it works. I mean, you got 10 times more tubes. You got solenoid valves all over the place. You got directions of that simply directing the refrigerant to go to the right place, depending on the ECU in the vehicle, determining what's the exact best way of the refrigerant to flow and heat and cool. And believe me, if you don't know heat transfer and the ratio between temperature and pressure, you're going to lose. You're simply not going to do. So we're going back to AC specialists now that we had back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, maybe 90s.
Yeah.
And then it became very common. Everybody bought an automatic AC machine. So now everybody could, quotation mark, work on an AC system. We're going back to the fact that you need to flush the system, you need to clean the system, because if a solenoid valve is contaminated, that system's going to break down again. And if you do have a warranty on a heat pump system, we're not looking at $1,000. We're not looking at $500. We're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 because everything needs to be replaced. Because that oil, that dirty oil, debris, or whatever is in there was in the internal condenser, the external condenser, in the solenoid valves, and everything else. And remember, as a workshop, you're the one who's going to put the stamp and say, yep, we did it right. So when it comes back as a warranty, you're the ones going to pay for it, because someone like us that gets it back to our warranty department are going to go, no, that's not how that worked. It broke down because you didn't flush the system. Unfortunately today.
Yeah, but it's already been up and pushed through the system. Everybody's been paid down below, and you're doing warranty analysis and realizing that we've got problems here.
True. And in all fairness, I mean, with the old systems, it's fairly inexpensive to sort of say, listen, I mean, this is what you did. We'll give you a new compressor and a condenser, but you'll pay for the labor. But next time you're not going to get it because this is what went wrong. And people go, oh, that's fine. That's easy when it's only a certain amount of money. But when we talk about 3,000, 4,000 euros or dollars, I mean, everybody gets picky.
Okay, so help me understand this.
Sure.
You sell an expensive piece of equipment for a state-of-the-art air conditioning system. Do you have any kind of warning? It's like the end user license agreement for every piece of software that you get, and who reads them, but you click the box and you go forward, right? And when you open up that box of that very expensive item that you know if they don't do the proper flush, they don't do all of these things right, what are you doing as a company to help people realize the fullness of that they need to do?
Well, the thing is, first of all, we offer the training classes, the NCC Nissen training concept, which is basically something that everybody gets offered if they want to have it. Secondly, we have an extremely specified instruction of what to do and what not to do. The challenge would always be if you worked on, let's say that you always clean the house. I mean, you always do the vacuum in the same way. Everything's fine. Everything works just great. I mean, your wife is happy. Everybody's happy. Then you get a new vacuum cleaner. And then suddenly it tells you to do things differently. And it's not as efficient as it used to be, but you still do the same way because, hey, it works. I mean, it's clean. But your wife goes, no, it's not so clean anymore. The problem with the new components is that they need to be treated differently. Okay. When you got a new equipment, new component, whatever, they need to be treated differently. So when we talk to a customer and they've been doing this for 20, 30 years, they go, I've always done this way. So why should I change it? Because the components change, because the way of the best practices change when you have new components. So our biggest challenge is that we can put as many instructions, training classes out there if we want to. But the problem is always that will people want them? We have a website, it's called Nissens training website. It's a Nissens training expert where everything is available. It's not, you don't need a password, you don't need a login. Everything's available to actually go through this. I mean, how many clicks do we have a month? We should have 1 million. We probably have 1,000. But that's where all the information is. And another thing is that it used to be that if you're a big enough customer with a distributor and you send back a warranty, you will get that warranty because they're afraid to lose that customer. We are in the same position, but we came to the point where we say we cannot keep making credit notes because we're afraid to lose the customer. We need to train them and inform them.
You need to hover over with your training programs and sweep in and bring people up to the level that they should be in if they're going to be an air conditioning specialist. It's almost like, I'm sorry, you can't. See, here I'm thinking of if I was a country like Denmark, I could say, this is what you have to do if you want to buy my parts. That won't work.
No, and nobody has to remember. You also have to consider the fact that Denmark is a fairly rich country. Okay, so we can ask people to do certain things. And it was funny because I was in Albania 3 weeks ago doing a training class, and people say, yeah, but we can't get people to do that in Albania. They won't pay for it. I don't care what you can get people to do and not in Albania. I'm not here to teach people in Albania what they want to pay for. I'm here to teach them the right way of doing AC. Whether they pay for it or not, that's your job. It's not my job. I mean,
and today there's a right way of doing everything.
There is.
Everything.
And there's
we cannot be sloppy. We cannot be lazy. We cannot think that what we did yesterday works today.
Well, it's got to come back and bite you somewhere.
It is.
If you do it that way. And honestly, to me, I'm not here to tell you that the invoice should be $1,000 or $2,000. I'm just here to tell you that if this doesn't happen, if these are not the steps you're going to do, there's a risk. I'm not saying it will break down. There is a risk that it will break down. And then the invoice will be much higher at the end of the day.
I wonder if Nissens has ever done a study that says, here's all the warranty we got back. Here's the percentage of it. And this is why we have to charge what we have to charge.
Oh, believe me, we have it.
Yeah.
It's kind of confidential because
again, my lips are sealed.
Exactly.
I get it.
And it's just between you and me and Tracy. I mean, no, but everybody has warranty. I mean, everybody has warranties. I mean, to say that we don't, but we also have to make people understand that we're not in this business to reject warranties. We're here to understand why did it break down? Do we need to stop production? But to stop production, we need a valid reason. I'm not going to stop it just because you in Buffalo thought it was a great idea.
We're here at Max 2024. Michael Ingvardsen, I think I said that right.
You did.
For the second time, the training manager of Nissens. I just truly loved this conversation. Thank you so much.
I did too. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. So anytime.
Appreciate it.